Hello, everybody. Welcome tonight to the Round Table. I'm Luca, and this is TJ.
Hello there.
And for tonight's movie, we are reviewing Disaster Movie. So, Disaster Movie is a comedy about a group of friends who are met with a series of natural disasters. As they try to stay safe, one of the friends is experiencing problems in their romantic life and tells themselves to stay true to their significant other. So, TJ, what are your thoughts on the movie?
Not funny. Didn't laugh. In simple.
Yeah, it wasn't too funny.
And also, and this is also it is worth. Also, I would argue if it was both a comedy or a story, if there was a comedy or story. But let's get into it. So you never heard of this movie, correct?
No.
Or the directors, Friedberg and Seltzer?
Nope. Well, are they pretty popular?
They're infamous.
Oh.
I've heard of them a few times, and I watched the first half of Epic Movie in school. We were playing it on TV, but this is their first full-length film I've seen of theirs, and it's not very.
Do they direct a scary movie series?
I think that was maybe. I think that was mostly somebody else. They did most of their movies have movie in them. They did Date Movie, Epic Movie. You didn't watch any of these?
No, I've seen the scary movie series though.
Movie, of course. Yeah, I think that was. Anyway, so what did you think of this movie?
I thought it was a whole nother level of dumb comedy. The characters were all annoying and dumb in their own ways, and some scenes were just too weird to watch.
Yeah, it's not that they're weird. Okay, I guess we should start with everything that isn't comedy. What did you think of the? Yeah, so what did you think of the characters and the story?
I thought Will and Amy were okay. The rest were just over the top.
No.
I like Will and Amy's love story. I like how Will learns to commit.
No, he doesn't. He's dating Matthew Broderick at the end of the film.
Wait, that's just a joke. They end up together.
We don't know that. The last thing we see is a few chipmunks, which we'll get into that later, being crushed by cow. Anyways, I did not like any of these characters. They're just they're boring and underdeveloped, which the latter point is can be okay for a comedy, but it is just but they're just nothing. Like they're nothing. And that's the main. We'll get into the references. I would like to get to references in a little bit.
Yeah.
But the original characters, they're bland, and I think we spend too much time with their backstory and such, or just drama, I guess, to really treat them as throwaway pawns for comedy. What's the word? For vehicles for comedy, and I did not like it. Same goes for the story. The story is weirdly frustrating. Like it's theoretic. I think theoretically this should just be this should just be a background element, something to help move along the story, but it's just, again, this sort of ties into the character drama. It's too prevalent to be ignored, but too loose to really be taken seriously. So it just becomes sort of frustrating.
It's not supposed to be taken seriously at all.
It's not taken. I shouldn't say taken seriously. I mean, like, it's hard to get invested, even from a comedy standpoint. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
But
it's just incredibly unbearable to watch.
Yeah. This brings me. Yeah. this brings us to an important aspect. This movie's a spoof. So, Luke, as a spoof, how do you think this movie did?
Eh, not the greatest. Even as a
Well,
spoof,
it's
it didn't like do too well.
so the reason I chose this film is because last week we watched Spaceballs, which I think it's very fair to say is also very both is stupid and mature, but much like date movie. But like, what do you think Spaceballs? Obviously, they're two different films, but in the aspect of spoofing, what do you think Spaceballs did did better? Because at least I think Spaceballs did a much better job than Disaster Movie, ignoring all the gross out humor and the much more edgier stuff.
I would say Spaceballs did better in spoofing the characters of their respective series, and spoofing on the Star Wars story, or part of it at least.
But like, what else? But how did it spoof them better, in your opinion?
Because I just think their lines are less dumb and immature, and
Yeah,
we don't have him like being stupid every 5 seconds.
yeah. I mean, as we mentioned this in last week's review, like
Spaceballs
the
is just
characters
more
are,
bearable to watch.
yeah, but you're not, yes, but you're not going into why it's more bearable. But personally, I think like, as in the, I think, well, for one, Spaceballs is just a better movie in every aspect, which is not too fair to say because many movies are better than this movie in many aspects. But in the case of, but when it comes to spoofing a film, I think, well, for I think the biggest problem with this film is that they this their jabs at various franchises, celebrities, trends, etc. They are either very shallow or just very or just have no depth whatsoever. Well, here's another important aspect of this movie. It is not. It is many of the things that it was spoofing. The directors couldn't have seen, like Kung Fu Panda, which is spoofed in the film. That came out next month, and many, not to mention all the films that they parodied that year, which were most definitely done during production. It is, yeah. So point is, the directors didn't see all these films. In fact, this is just my hunch. Any. I don't think they've seen a good half of these films. I think they just saw a trailer or something.
Yeah, they most likely haven't seen any of them or much.
Yeah, which again, which there's not, and because of that, there's just nothing really to the spoofing of these properties. They literally just go, they like a modern day equivalent would be like going, hey, let's take Thanos and get him hit by a cow, and that's it. There is no real attempt to deconstruct these tropes and characters in a way that is unique to the characters. A lot of the jokes just feel very what's the word, like, you could swap them out is what I could say. Like, they literally do that with Iron Man and Hellboy, but
Yeah,
this but there is no reason for that character to be Iron Man or Hellboy to be Hellboy. They could just, like, most of the characters, they could be swapped for anyone within restrictions. Like, Iron Man could be Captain America or the Terminator or whoever, and the joke would work just as well. And by just as well, I mean it doesn't really work because it's just it's poorly executed. It's, yeah, it's not very the time the timing just feels very off, and it's just, and it is just, and it just feels so bare bones on its own merits. And even when they do go, and even when they do kind of parody these elements, like the Juno character, one of them, throughout the first half of the film, one of the main group is a parody of Juno from a film from 2008.
Mm-hmm.
That's another, like, it's just, they're just names they heard. They didn't even care if they were popular. That's just how lazy it is.
Yeah.
And basically her entire joke is that she drinks Sunny D, which is something she does in the trailer, it's just some, and she sings, and she has this over,
and she liquorizes the Sunny D for some reason.
Well, yeah. The reason is to make a bad joke, but also it's just so. But her joke is that her dialogue is very pretentious, essentially, and it's a very blatantly. But it doesn't go into. But it doesn't really go into what those. Doesn't really go into parodying Juno. Like that's just such a shallow cut, and that's one of the better elements of parody. So much, so much of this is just so what's the word? Disingenuous. Like it doesn't feel like Friedberg or Seltzer care about any of the properties they're spoofing at all.
Yeah, from the looks of it, they were just hopping on trends from 2008 and previous years.
It's not even really copying. Well, I don't even think they do it well. Here's another weird bit I noticed. They ripped off a joke.
What?
I wrote it down somewhere. They ripped off You Don't Mess with Zoran. I don't know. It's an Adam Sandler flick about him being some sort of spy. I haven't seen the movie, although remember that joke where Juno beat up the trans woman? Oh, yeah, that's something else to get in real quick. Like with her feet.
Yeah.
That's the exact same. That's the exact same joke. It's not like I know. I think they want you to take away that it's parody, but it's just a joke done worse. It's the same. Yeah, which is just so bad. Yeah, it just feels so, again, bare bones.
I was completely grossed out by the Juno character. Like her stomach is poking out of her shirt. She's doing all these elaborate dances and fight moves, and she even has her water break. I was like, somebody please put me out of my misery.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, her character is. I guess this brings us to the gross out, which, like many things, it just doesn't really work. Like, what did you think of the gross? Well, for me, what did you think of the gross out?
I didn't like it. It just made me even more uncomfortable than I already was watching the movie.
Yeah, it's just a lot of the gross out yet just feels very bland.
Just when I thought the movie couldn't get any worse, it did.
It's just a bunch of mostly it just feels a lot of the humor just feels like it's like it feels like it's trying to overcompensate for actual material by just being gross and hoping it gets a gawk out of the audience. But it just feels very weak. It doesn't really, and just poorly executed. And so you're just left feeling gross. There's also a lot of gratuitous depictions of women, which is very uncomfortable and just very, and again, just feels, a lot of this movie just feels very gross. Man. So have you seen Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yeah, I have.
So what do you think their how do you think they handled the characters? Do you think they did a decent job parodying them at least?
I actually like the Alvin and the Chipmunks characters. I like how they start out sweet and then turn into these demonic creatures after they sing a heavy metal song. It,
I don't like them.
I thought they were kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't think like they're one of the funnier butts, but like I don't think they are. I still don't think they're funny. Like it's like there's like again they don't really parody Elvin and the Chipmunks all that well. They just said, what if we had the chipmunks attack people, and that's it. They could. It just feels so lazy. Like they kind of do that when the Juno character says that their cute song is kind of creepy, but they don't go anywhere with that. It's just yeah, it just feels very late, very again lazy and just very underdeveloped, and which I know I've said throughout this film.
Yeah, but I have one more thought. It might contradict what you said earlier, but aside from the film's poor quality, it has a fairly big production. The costumes, makeup, sets, props, and visuals all give off a cinematic vibe. Would you say so?
I've seen. Well, I would disagree. I've seen. It is yes. I give them props that this took a lot of work, as any movie does. It takes a lot of work to make movies. You need to get extras. You need to feed the extras and special effects and such. But but the costumes by themselves, they feel they feel very very poorly done, which could be excused if this movie was felt any if this movie felt genuine and was an actual attempt made by to make something funny, and well, I guess it is made something funny, but like being a genuine attempt to be a good film and not and actually try, I could forgive it. But they're just yeah, but they just come across as, to me, a lot of the costumes and special effects just come across as very very boring. And I went on before that I like practical effects and makeup effects, but here they just yeah, but here it is just feels like a product of being lazy, and I just didn't. And honestly, I've seen YouTube videos of better production, which sounds like I'm making fun of YouTube, but it is true. But it is true. You and it, and those films and many of those products well, I shouldn't say products, many of those videos have more heart put into them. There's just no there's just no heart to this movie. Like, and I'm sure like many of the people had fun making it, but there is just no real attempt to be a fun movie to me.
Yeah, but I think the costumes and props look great. They look like something I would see in many A-list A movies.
Asian. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Just one last thing. I don't think they're really. Do you think this does a good job making fun of the disaster movie genre?
No, not really.
Yeah. Doesn't really make fun of disaster movies all that much. Not more so than other genres. It's all over. Like the movie is all over the place with what it's making fun of. There is no real consistent theme, even though, despite, well, there kind of is, but the title just doesn't really hold up, and it just feels like it's a bunch of a bunch of it's a bunch of names and references put into a script with little thought to how they're actually being made fun of. There's and then it was half-heartedly produced.
The production elements are well made, but they don't do a good job at demonstrating disaster movies.
I mean, it would, that wouldn't matter if they were trying to say something about disaster movies, but they don't. But they really don't. I guess this brings us to recommendations. So, Luca, would you recommend this movie?
No, I would not.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same here. I don't think. Yeah, same here. Maybe if you want to see a very, very bad film for one reason or another, like, and I don't mean like entertainingly bad or fascinatingly bad. I mean boringly bad. I'd say check this one out if you want to cause yourself some pain. But overall, it's just not really worth. But overall, it's just not really worth watching. I'd give it a 0, really.
Ooh, 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a comedy, I would give it a 1 out of 10. On a production scale, I would give it somewhere between an 8 and a 9.
Okay. Then. So Luca, what do you want to watch next week?
I want to watch Meet the Parents from 1992.
Meet the Parents. Okay.
And not the one with Ben Stiller, the original.
All right. Thank you for your time, Luca.
Thank you for joining me, TJ. Have a good day.
Welcome.